You want to deliberately put an inconvenience to my employees? I'll just make the most inconvenient policy to put an end to that. I own a small hole-in-the-wall diner in the middle of a strip mall. We are surrounded by office buildings and factories. 90% of my business is carry-out, and lunch rush is my moneymaker. We always get extremely large orders from all of our neighboring businesses. I appreciate my customers and their loyalty. My staff and I earn decent living because of them. There is one company, however, that purposely gives my staff an unnecessary hard time every time they order. They will purposely hold whoever answers the phone on the line for 20 plus minutes just to take the order, and they never have their order ready when they call. She'll walk around the office to talk, taking orders while on the phone, laughing and giggling the entire time. Then when it comes time to pay, it will literally be 17 to 25 separate transactions. They are always unorganized with their payments and deliberately hold everything up at a snail's pace, laughing and giggling the whole time. They know they're being a-holes and they think it's funny. If any of my staff gets frustrated with them even a little bit, they will call back and complain. I never said anything to them about it, only because I appreciate the business. But last week they held up the line for so long, several of my customers who was waiting to pick up their food walked out because they were late getting back to work. Now their fun and games cost me money. I had no other choice. I had to come up with something. I don't want to flat out tell them they suck, but I wanted to give them a taste of their own medicine. I posted a large sign in front of my cash register that reads, "If you're making multiple transactions, you may be asked to move to the back of the line after each transaction during busy times to ensure quality service for all of my customers. Sorry for the inconvenience." Yesterday, after they placed their order, I warned them of our new policy. I don't think she took me serious because she was still giggling. When they came to pick up their food, we were slammed. There were several people in front of them, and when it came time for them to pay, there were several people behind them. After the first transaction, I asked them to move to the back, pointing at the new side. The dumbfounded look on her face was priceless. They still had 20 more transactions left, and now it's not so funny to be inconvenienced. When they finally made it their way up from the second time they was pissed, but they still wanted separate transactions. So I asked them to move to the back again. This time they asked to speak to a manager. I was thrilled to tell them I was the owner, and this is my policy. I explained the situation and told them I warned them of the policy beforehand, and there's nothing I can do. The third time they came to the front, they were livid. I honestly think they learned their lesson. They put the remaining balance on one credit card. I don't enjoy being an a-hole, but this time, I did. I'm the Padawan. My dad is the master. Back in 1991, my dad bought my mom a brand new Chevy Caprice. You know, the big, ugly, fat as a whale cop car? It was white with fake mesh wheels and white walled tires. My mother loved it. She had it 2 weeks and kept it parked in front of her house in SoCal. The guy across the street was a contractor. Back in 1991, that basically meant shady douchebag that hired illegals that stood outside Home Depot. Shady douche started remodeling a house up the street from us on our side of the road. They're doing some stucco work. At the end of the day, his workers decided to just dump the leftover stucco in the gutter and try to hose it down the street. It got all over my mom's tires. She didn't notice, drove off, and went all over the passenger side of the car. My dad wasn't happy, not one bit. He went across the street to talk to the contractor neighbor. My dad is 6'3", Air Force Vietnam Purple Heart recipient. He has fired a weapon in anger. Neighbor was a 5'4" a-hole with an attitude. Dad goes over and explains the situation, actually keeping his calm. He asks the guy to have the stucco removed from the car. The neighbor tells my dad to go F himself. I'm expecting my dad at this point to kill said stranger. Instead he says, "Okay," and walks back across the street. He has my mom's car detailed, and that's that. 7 years later, my dad and I are watching a Laker game. It's about 10 at night and it's halftime. My dad says, "I will be right back." He walks out of the house, goes in the garage and gets 2 1-gallon buckets of paint. He walks across the street and dumps it all over the neighbor's brand new BMW convertible. The neighbor had left the top down because it was in May and the weather was nice in Southern California. So the entire outside and inside of the BMW is now covered in paint. My dad walks back, puts the paint back in the garage, closes the door, and comes back to watch the rest of the game. The next morning, the neighbor comes out and sees his car. We hear him saying out loud to his wife, "I don't understand. Who would have done this? I don't get this at all." He had forgotten all about that stucco. My dad just waited and waited. Fast forward to now. 7 years ago, an ant-hill down my road hit my dog and killed him, then drove off. Found his hubcap in the road, next to my dog, and confronted him. "Oh, I thought it was a deer. I'm waiting for a really nice day. The paint is ready in my basement."